Good evening, everyone. I'd like to be able to call this School District of Brown Deer special meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. We have a verification of public notice. The meeting has been publicly noticed. Verification of a quorum. We have 5 of our 7 board members in attendance this evening. Approval of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve the agenda is presented.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I have a second. Okay, that motion. I got Peterson.
Peterson will second. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and/or aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously 5-0. Then a reading of our vision and mission statement. Our vision is to provide a rigorous education that empowers our students to confidently navigate in our ever-changing world. And our mission is through the lens of excellence, equity, and engagement. We are dedicated to empowering every student with the essential skills to build a foundation for lifelong learning. All right, let's go on to our item number 2, our business office report. So item A is our business office report. Mr. Klimick.
Good evening, members of the board. Brief items here with my business office report. The biggest one is the first one where we have the results of our membership audit, which I shared with the board. Again, every 4 years, districts have to go through a membership audit. This was our year to get picked, so it wasn't anything unusual. If you do have significant findings, you'll usually get picked the next year. You don't anticipate that will be happening for us. But again, our audit firm comes in and compares what our actual numbers were for our September counts and our January counts and just verifies them for DPI. And so I did share with you the results. We did have a couple of findings, 2 of which we had identified already in the January count, where we had a couple of students from September that when we did the January count, we realized they weren't there, and we would have filed an amended September count, but we had to wait for the auditors to come in to do that. And then there were 2 additional students that were identified, which netted to a 0 change. One was an addition, one was a subtraction. And then we had a couple of FTE adjustments to our summer school numbers. And so all in all, the report went very well. Auditors said it went very smoothly. A number that I thought was interesting, and I had, because Kathy Kelser, our district accountant, kind of runs the show. She works with the buildings and their attendance secretaries and principals to kind of make sure we count everybody. But I had to just run the numbers because in January, you have to not only count who's here in January, but you have to track everybody that's come and gone between September and January. And we had 112 students who were on the September count or the January count, but not on the other count. So that means that 112 students either left, a combination of them left during the school year or joined us during the school year. And in addition, we had 8 students who are on neither count. So they showed up after and left before. So that just kind of shows you just a little bit of the transient nature of enrollment in our districts and why it is a challenge just to kind of make sure we are keeping up on our membership count. So were there any specific questions related to the audit findings?
I'm just trying to understand that statement.
Yeah, well, I guess my question is that the 2 that we missed for that September count, they were those the 4K K4 students?
Yep.
Yeah, and so was that for our K4 is our half day program still continue, right?
6 FTE.
Right, so we reported 92 and we ended up with 90?
Correct, right. But we had 2 that we thought were in attendance and actually weren't, so we had to.
So were they not in attendance on third counts?
They weren't in attendance at all. They were on the roster, and because we were doing, because we generally do positive attendance, so the assumption is in Skyward is that if students are here, or if they're in attendance, there's no marking. It's only absences are only marked. So when we have a student that's enrolled and there's no marking, the assumption is that they're here. And then later, after we had filed the report, it was discovered that they were withdrawn and actually had never attended. So we didn't have that information at the time of the September filing. But again, we would have identified that and we would have self-reported that. With the audit, we would have filed an adjustment to the September count, but we had to wait again until the auditors came through because we knew the audit was coming as well.
And that was my question. Anita, do you need clarity on yours?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, the 112 students. So you're saying that a total of 112 students were maybe here in September, but not in.
It's a combination of both of those things. So, you look at it, we look at the 2 numbers and they're very similar. It did go up over the course of the year. So our January count was higher than our September count.
Okay.
But it's not the same kids is the point. Is that it's not like there's consistency where all those kids are the same, that we had 112 students transition in or out of the district. So they weren't here for the full year. They either came, they either were here in September and counted, but then were not here in January. So they left sometime between September and January, or they arrived after the September count, so probably October, and then we're here in January and, we're here at that point. So there's just
So 112.
total between those two groups.
We only got 50% of the funding.
Well, we're correct. Because if they do show up after the count date, then we don't get them in the revenue list. So they're not counted.
That's why I was talking about third count. So if they weren't here, either they weren't here for third count and they came after third count, or they left before third count and then came back.
Right. It could have been 62 of each, so it might have evened out. I don't, we didn't look at it that closely, but just the fact that there were that many students that kind of come and go. And then the 8 students that came and went and were on either count. So we taught them for a period of time and we'll get no compensation either through equalization aid or through the revenue.
Yeah. Okay.
I just thought it just drew a question that I wanted to ask, and Kathy ran those numbers. I thought that was
Actually, when you think about it, those 116, that's like 7% of our student population. Well, if you calculate out, it's about 7%.
Yeah.
So it ain't a little number.
No, it's not small. It's not insignificant. I think it just, again, because whenever I show you enrollment information, you don't get a sense of whether those are the same kids or not. Like we don't know. Again, I can have, when we go year to year and I show you 100 kids in third grade and then next year it's 100 kids in fourth grade, you might say those are the same kids, but there could be 32 kids. And so just the challenges of now, teaching to kids who haven't been here before, those 30 kids, that's part of the Brown Deer story of how our enrollment works.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any board members, any other questions in relationship to the enrollment aspect and to the audit piece?
Just the audit, you might not be able to answer the question, but in terms of the finding column, you have, no exceptions were found and then completed. I'm not sure what completed.
Completed means they checked it. So, they went through the process and verified that the count occurred. So really the only, like I said, when you're looking at membership count, they're looking to make sure you're following your procedure. And then they're looking to see where there are variances. And, with the number of students in any district, they're going to catch something. So a small percentage like what we had is not unusual, and there's no real issue with it. If there was a more significant amount, then they would probably again look at us the following year to make sure we're being more accurate in our counts. So again, this was, like I said, every 4 years, districts are randomly selected unless they're asked to do one because of an issue from the prior year. So hopefully we're off the radar for another 3 years.
Yeah. And if you look further back on that audit report, it gives you a little bit more detail when Kevin talked about the students that they thought were enrolled and were not.
That's it.
In attachment 2, they then will show you the detail of who those students were.
And again, they report that like for the 4K students, they report those as findings, but they were findings to be self-reported too. So
Right.
it was a situation where the other two, those were found with the auditors. So. All right.
All right.
Well, then if there's no other questions, I can race through the rest of the business office updates. Big one is that teacher contracts went out this afternoon. And we will we'll see how that goes. Teachers have until June 15th to either reject or sign their contracts. So we'll keep you up to date as to how those will be going over the next several weeks. Our benefit enrollment is also ongoing. This is our second week of enrollment for our staff. I reported as of Friday was 42%. I looked today, it's now at 56%. So we're a little over halfway and being a little over halfway in our calendar. So we will get the rest of that situated this week. And then also a little thing I did add was that the property appraisal came through. Property appraiser came through today. We had mentioned bringing on Gallagher Bassett, which is a subsidiary of our insurance consultant, to restate this, to recalculate the statement of values for our buildings because of the way costs have gone up when you're talking about replacement value, and to make sure that when we sign our new insurance property insurance agreements that we are properly covered in case we would have, we have to replace buildings. It had been a significant amount of time since we had done that, and the market has shifted dramatically over the last several years with supply chain, labor, and other things. The cost of building has gone up. So we'll hopefully have a much more accurate assessment. They said they'll get it to us within the next couple of weeks, so we should have it as part of our.
All right. All right,
And that is all for the business office update.
all right. All right, let's go on to item number B, approval of new hires.
We have 3 new hires this evening. We have Becky Crowley, who will be a middle school special education teacher. We have Lindsay Hudson, also a middle school special education teacher, and Kara Boudard, who is a high school science teacher. All starting in August of 2024.
All right.
That night? On the 26th.
That's the week before.
For the real school, got pushed back. Start time. To some districts.
Okay. All right. With that being said, would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Becky Crowley as the middle school sped teacher effective August 26th, 2024 for the 2024-25 school year.
You can do, if you want
We can do all 3 of them, just do, it'll be all 3 names and stuff with the August 26th. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Lindsay Hudson. Same motion.
Same motion.
Okay, same motion.
Yep.
And Kara Boudard as the high school science teacher. Let me go back and do that again, because it looks like 2 middle school teachers, Becky Crowley and Lindsay Hudson, for the 26th, for the August, effective August 26, 2024, for the 24-25 school year. Kara Boudard, the high school science teacher for August 26, 2024, for the 24-25 school year.
Yeah, that cleared it up.
Yeah, that really made it. There we go. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. All right, thank you very much. Motion is made and seconded.
You got it.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing that, all in favor with raised hand and or aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that opposed?
Oh, it's my phone.
Oh, okay, all right. All right. With that being said, motion carries unanimously 5-0. So we'd like to welcome Becky, Lindsay, and Kara, to the school district of Brown Deer. All right, thank you very much. All right, Mr. Clement, let's go on to item 2C.
We do have a number of resignations this evening. We have Kimberly Crane, special education teacher at the elementary school, Maggie Langhoff, first grade teacher at the elementary school, Jessamine Rideau Crenshaw, special education teacher at the elementary school, Haley Wiersba, our school psychologist at the elementary school, and Shelby Larson, a high school English teacher. All leaving at the end of this school year.
Okay.
If you want to, you can do the 4 teachers in a single motion. I did note Haley's contract expires on June 30th, but the others, their last day would be June 7th. So those 4 all line up if you want to do that.
So whoever doing 2C, we can make a motion for the approving their resignations for the 4 teachers. But the one for, because they all end on the same day, June 7th, but then the one for Haley will have to be a separate.
So, Dr. Vito, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resignation of Kimberly Crane as an elementary school sped teacher, to approve the resignation of Maggie Langhoff as an elementary school teacher, to approve the resignation of Jasmine Rideau Crenshaw as an elementary school sped teacher, and to approve the resignation of Shelby Larson as a high school English teacher, all effective June 7th, 2024.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so we had a motion and a second by Ms. Ashley. Any further discussion? You can see that all in favor with raised hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And you can see none, motion carries 5-0. So we'd like to we'd like to thank Kimberly, Maggie, Jasmine, and Shelby for their dedication to the school district of Brown Deer. We wish them well in their future endeavors. And once we always say, once a Falcon, always a Falcon. All right, would someone like to make a motion for the resignation of Haley?
Yes, Dr. Vito, I'd like to make that motion to approve the resignation of Haley Wisba as an elementary school psychologist effective June 30th, 2024.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion has been made and seconded by Ms. Robinson. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? You can see that motion carries unanimously 5-0, and we say the same thing with Haley. Thank you very much for everything that you've done for the District of Brown Deer, and we wish you well in future endeavors. And once a Falcon, always a Falcon. All right, let's move on to our next item is item D. Mr. Clement.
Yes, knowing this meeting was short, I just went ahead and grabbed something that we have to do anyway in the next couple of months. So the depository list for fiscal year 25 is out there. This is just the annual list that you approve of the banks that we use for various accounts. And the policy is attached that of what you're authorizing us to work electronically with those banks. Nothing's changing. If anything, we will be looking to probably reduce and consolidate some accounts over the course of the next year, but we're not going to add anything, so there would be board action. If you want to for the motion, I apologize. I could have made an amendment on the list, but you could basically just say, I'm going to make a motion to approve the list of depositories as presented.
It's a motion.
No, you could do it you could just do the list of depositories as presented. You don't necessarily have to list the bank, the firms. You can just do it as presented because the list is enough. So
Okay.
unless you want to do it that way, that's fine. Any questions about that? But this is the same list you saw last.
All right, any questions? All right, so we're looking at D. Someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the authorization for the district to use the banks, US Bank, BMO Harris Bank, Tri-City, and PMA as depositories to receive funds electronically during the 2024-2025 fiscal school year.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Farrington. Oh, first motion. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Farrington. All right, all in favor with, do we have a second?
Need a second?
I said, do we have a second?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All right, hearing seen none, all in favor with raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Hearing seen none, motion carries unanimously 5-0. All right, let's go on to our next item, 3A. Would that be Mr. Clemick or would that be Dr. Brown?
Yep, it's me still.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago, the board approved the salary increases for teachers. As I mentioned, those contracts went out today. Now, the next step is if the board is willing to look ahead and also provide salary increases to the rest of the staff, which would include administrators, professionals, support staff, and custodians. And so what I did is I provided you with a little bit of background information. Historically, we've done this in the fall, just like we've done with the teachers. Historically, we've provided a CPI increase when we were able to hit CPI. The last couple of years we didn't, but we tried to match what we were doing for teachers. And so that's been the historical plan. Now this year with us coming to this point where we're doing this early and knowing that we have a deficit budget, we have the opportunity to kind of look and see what makes the most sense for us as a district. We're also, with the agreement with the teachers, we exceeded CPI this year. So, the question is, do you want to exceed at the same level? Do you want to exceed it at a different point? And then just noting the reality that the calculation of the CPI increase for teaching staff, when we signed the agreement, that was the maximum amount that we were going to be providing to the group as a whole. And then as teachers continue to change districts and when they leave us, then those increases are really no longer included because the staff that are leaving aren't getting increases. So I anticipate that by the time all is said and done, we will be somewhere within a 4.5 to 4.8% increase for the teaching staff. Probably close to the 4.5, but again, it depends on how many teachers end up resigning between now and the end of the year or between now and the start of the next year. So then the question is, what would you like to do for support staff and the rest of the groups? And I did provide you with a chart showing you each category of staff and then showing a variety of different percentage increases. I noted what percentage I used in the budget so that you know where we're at or what in the document that you saw. a couple weeks ago. But also remembering that we have a $900,000 deficit, $900,000 plus deficit in that budget. So I just wanted the board to consider that. So just as a reminder then of these groups, these are the groups how I divide folks up to, and that's why you see these numbers break out. Administrator would be any contracted administrator. Our professional staff includes people like our HR manager, our accountant, network administrator, school psychs, our custodians, self-explanatory groups. And then I have support staff and instructional support staff. Support would be our administrative assistants generally, or other positions that aren't necessarily specifically instructional. And then our instructional support, which could include building subs, educational assistants, SEL coaches, things like that. So that's how those groups kind of shake out. And then all of these show what not only the salary cost is, but also the trailing costs of retirement, Social Security, and Medicare involved. So you can see how those break up between a 4% increase and a 5% increase. And so whether you're comfortable making a decision today or you want to wait a couple of weeks or however long you want to wait, we would like to ideally put out notices of assignment early in June for our rest of our support staff that don't have contracts, so that we can do that better. But I wanted to at least get the information out to you and have you start considering what that might look like. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
And then for clarity, the 4.85 is what you included in the budget.
That's what I did in the draft that you saw. So, and that's probably on the high end now of what that would look like.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Clement? Relationship to this budget for the salary increases?
And I did note too, not that this is I did do a thorough study of all the districts, but certainly in our North Shore Consortium, we discussed like what we were looking at from our increase standpoint, and pretty much across the board, the CPI was what people were looking at with the 4.12. So now they may have done more than we did previously, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend 4.12 as a hard bottom, but it does, I think anything we do above that is a plus for our district to again remain competitive.
So you have a June 15th date for folks expressing their intent to continue on.
Teachers, that's a statutory requirement.
Okay.
Teachers have until June 15th to sign their contract or not. But from a notice of assignment, the notice of assignment standpoint is basically because some of our employees are 12-month employees, so they'll, this would be effective July 1st and they would continue their employment. Other folks like our 10-month staff, paraprofessionals, educational assistants, this is their notice of assurance that they're going to be employed so that they're not able to file unemployment over the summer, that because we have a job waiting for you in the fall. And so and again, all of our notice of assignment, those employees are all employees at will. They can resign at any point in time and we can make changes or cuts if we have to at any point in time. It's different than the teaching contract with the non-renewal calendar and things like that. So obviously administrators and the professional group, they have contracts, but the rest of the support staff, custodians, staff, they're almost signed. So our deadline, in that sense, is, the middle of June, to try to, but for our 12-month employees, we want to make sure they're coming back July 1st, and usually we know that right away. But the ones in the fall, as long as we put that out there, if they decide to leave in July or August, we can fill the position.
So do you have a recommendation?
I think, as I mentioned, I think we're going to end up in that 4.5 to 4.8%. So I guess I would say, 4.5, 4.75 are the two that I've broken out. If you have another number, I can certainly run, a number that, calculates that, or you can estimate based on where that falls. I think that would be a appropriate number. Again, with every decision that, and this is like part of the realization, with every decision that you guys make over the next several months, it is going to be deciding how much is that deficit. So I know the tendency is to, hey, can we find a little bit of money here to spend? We're going to want to try to find a little bit of money here and there to save, because you can make, $10,000 decisions, and that's $100,000 when it's all said and done.
Right.
And that lessens that deficit. So, it's just a board comfort level with what does that deficit look like versus the value of whatever the thing is we're talking about. So do we feel like our support staff we need to add salaries a little bit higher for that, or do we feel like a certain number is fine and it's still above what, CPI is? And that reduces our deficit a little bit. So that's where I'm saying like that, it's the two options that I have out there, either 4.5, 4.75 potentially. You could say, hey, the budget, what we did 4.85, let's do that. Really, a lot of this is going to turn into tolerance of where you are comfortable with, as we calculate that deficit.
So then, I'm sorry. So that last column where it talks about the versus the budget, is that the shortfall if we would, that aligns with the percentages?
Well, the 4.85 is what I budgeted. So if you, so as an example, if you pick 4.75, there's a $4,000 savings.
Savings.
Yeah,
Oh, so it's not a shortfall. Okay.
Right, those are savings
Those are
compared to the budget.
savings.
It's less than what the actual budget was. So it'd be an extra $6,000 to do a 5%.
Okay. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
So for example, if we chose the 5%, how would that affect us in like a year? 2 years, 3 years?
Well, I mean, it's all compounded. So I mean, you'd be adding from the numbers that I shared with the budget, from a salary standpoint, it would be $6,000 higher than what was shared in April. So you'd be adding to the deficit, to do that. And then it depends on what the next following years look like. I mean, the challenge with salaries is always that it is a compounding effect. So, you add more one year than the 5% next year, or 5% the following year, it does compound. So now we also have, the reality is we also have changes in employment in the district. So people do leave and then people come back either at potentially a lower rate or at the same rate. So there's not an increase at that point. So it's not, the turnover is another piece of it as to what does it actually cost? It's a little hard to predict, but say from our our administrative assistants for the most part have stayed with us over the last few years. Education assistants is a little harder. So, generally those kind of reset because we kind of have a range of where we start people. And so if somebody leaves, somebody ends up starting. So it does vary, but does that help answer?
Okay.
Can you tell us one more time what we did for teachers? I think we said ultimately it ended up being a little more than 5%.
That was what, at the time, of when we did the agreement, it was. But like I said, now as the donations are coming in, we're now at 4.79, I think, with the resignation we had today. So again, and that will continue it won't go up, it'll only go down. So.
Okay, and that's where you have in the paragraph where you're saying that the teachers are now falling between the 4.5 and the 4.8.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
So Kevin, would it be more advantageous for us to be like for equity purposes, just do across the board in relationship to district period? Like whatever we get an increase for the teachers, whatever that.
Well, but you have to remember that the teachers don't get they don't get a percentage on their salary. They move steps.
They move up steps or whatever, but it comes up to.
Right, as a whole, but I'm saying so they agreed to something, but they're not getting that because that, again, only will go down as time goes on. So, so you did offer something, people have left, so the actual cost of what that will be for the teaching staff will be less.
Right.
So I'm assuming, and again, when we've done CPI, there's certainly value in saying if CPI is 4.12, you do at least 4.12, and then even when the teachers go down, you're still hitting that 4.12 for support staff because you're trying to at least address the cost of living at the very least. So that's why I say doing 4.5, 4.75, we're exceeding that 4.12. I mean, we can certainly try to hit the 5.1 if you want, but that is, that will be, if you're looking at what we originally targeted teachers, or if you're looking at, I'm trying to figure where we're going to end up roughly with teachers, and then we end up with the same with support staff. That I think works out in that equity standpoint. We won't know that though until September when all the staffing is decided, but we can guess.
All right, so basically you said 4.85 is where you put the budget at is 4.85. And then with that, you're comfortable with that percentage increase, that 4.85 from a budgetary standpoint.
But you are saying for equity purposes, then that's gonna mean they're getting more than what the teachers.
Well, the thing with the teachers is actually, the numbers actually kind of floating because depending upon how many people leave or whatever have you, we put it's like a pot of money that was in there that was kind of split up amongst the teachers and stuff. So that's kind of how that one works.
Won't
So
that same type of thing happen with this pool of,
Well, only because
Staff.
it's different here because every staff member who's here will get this percentage.
Yeah.
So it actually impacts everyone,
Yeah.
at that percentage. So there's no, obviously, yes, people will leave and they won't get a raise, but everybody who is here will get, will get that same percentage, whatever it's getting.
4.85.
So
So-
within those people who are resigning though, like right now, we're getting the resignation. We just approved those.
let's do the.
Those ideally will
Four
be
grand.
targeted for maybe a new hire and they wouldn't even qualify or be eligible.
Right, whoever pays them isn't included in the raise conversation, and so, right, and so we look for some savings, to help pay for whatever other staff we have to hire, but we also are looking, honestly, we're also looking to reduce the deficit, I think. Because we don't want it to end up at that, and we want to try to, if we have to, just kind of chip away at it with various little things here and there so that, 900,000 turns into 700,000 or wherever we feel, more comfortable. Because the lower the deficit is, the more sustainable it might be for another years. I'm
All
trying to think that way.
So, board member, any other questions that you may have in relation? Now, we're not looking at, we're looking at trying to do the motion tonight to be able to talk about this or whatever have you.
You can, you can either think about it for 2 weeks. I'd love to have a decision by the end of May, or if you're ready to make a decision tonight, that's fine.
Make it happen.
So I guess my question now as the board members is this: would you feel more comfortable going with the 4.85 that you put in the budget, or would we really look at more of that 4.75, which is more on the line with teachers?
I'd rather be more aligned with the teachers.
So the 4.75 puts us more on the line with the teachers then. Well, with the raises for the teachers, because it's coming in about 4.8, maybe a little bit less. So would you guys, would someone like to make a motion to have to approve the 4.75 increase? Or would you rather go with the 4.85 that's on the budget?
And one of the reasons why I don't like to make recommendations is I benefit from this, so I'd rather have you.
Well, no, I wasn't asking you. I was asking.
That's why I'm
But I
hesitant to
had
give you a
asked,
number,
right,
right? Because it is, I'm in the group, so I want you to do what you guys think, right? Answer, but I'm happy, right? I got zero. Zero.
All right. Okay, so, board members, your comfort level with 4.75.
Thankfully, they have a question.
I
This was
think I have
Dan's.
a question because I thought the recommendation would be between 4.5 and 4.75. And I am in agreement with the 4.75, but I just was decided clarification, y'all jumped down to it.
Well, we had into another thing because we were actually part of the committee to do the teachers negotiation. So we had a little bit of some other different information than
And
you
just
had.
trying to
Yeah.
bring them closer
Closer.
to what the
Got
it.
teachers were getting.
Okay. Okay.
For equity
I'm going to
purposes,
defer to
4.75.
closed door discussions. The 4.75, I'm okay with that.
All right, so the motion on the table then would be, unless there's any other questions, would we recommend that 4.75% increase?
Okay.
I don't think it's officially a motion yet, but
So he said that's what it would.
that would be.
That's right. 4.7.
4.75, yeah. So again, so we're all in agreement with 4.75. So then someone just have to make a motion to approve the 4.75 salary increase.
Next, I will make a motion to approve a 4.75 salary increase for county professionals, support, administrative and custodial staff for the 24-25 school year.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion is made. Any other further discussion? I think my only discussion piece would be is this: we want our staff, we want all of our staff to know that we value them, and we're trying to do this and get in front of this thing as a retention tool, number one, but also number two is to be able to let them know how much we appreciate them. And we're trying to go above and beyond what we have to do or whatever, hey, but we want to be able to show them in every place that we can that, from that financial standpoint, we're trying to do the best that we possibly can. All right. So with that being said, all in favor would raise hand and/or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously 5-0. So staff, 4.75 increases for the 24-25 school year.
They will be thrilled. I will let them know tomorrow.
All right. Yeah. All right, now let's go on to our next item. 4A, discussion of Algonquin property and future school needs. Is that Mr. Clement again?
Yes, and then I'm done. So that's what happens in June or May and June when that's all I get to talk about. But anyway, this is just an update, not an action item tonight, just an update to share with you. I did broach the subject 3 weeks ago in April about Tyler Burkhardt from the village reaching out and just mentioning that there is interest in the Algonquin property. I shared a little bit of information with you, and then you asked some questions. So I went out and tried to get what information I could, first of all. So just to share that with you tonight, you asked for a rough estimate of the property value. This is according to the village assessor, so it's not, we didn't pay for it to have been done. So I can't swear to its accuracy or whether that would be 100% where it would be. But they are estimating about $100,000 to $120,000 an acre right now for property in this area. So that would be approximately $1 million in proceeds for the sale of the Algonquin property because it's 9 acres. And again, I just noted that's a rough estimate. And potentially that could be negotiated as part of whatever the development deal is we would talk to. So I just shared that with you. We also talked about, so if we do sell that property, that's really the only non-campus safety valve we have for additional expansion. So then the question came into what can this space hold for additional buildings if necessary. And so I did reach out to Nick Kent. If you remember him, he was the architect from PRA, and he pulled up some of his archives of things that I didn't want him to put a lot of effort into this and bill us for anything yet, but I just said, hey, what have you guys talked about and what did you share with the board or discuss? So he sent a few plans, which I posted. So there were discussions of both having it was mostly an early childhood center they were talking about, but it was a 30,000 square foot building that they were looking at locating behind the tennis courts on 55th Street as one area that could potentially hold that building. And then also there was another plan that put it in the practice field here on 60th and Bradley, basically. It's a little off of where it would have to be now because that was done before the middle school expansion. It shows it kind of more adjacent to the entrance. So you'd have to be pushed probably closer to the road and farther back potentially, but that was another potential idea. So those are some things that were discussed. Certainly if you would like to have a more involved discussion or figure out what some maximum or more specific uses of the property would be, I could reach out to Nick and, we could bring him in and potentially have them come up with some ideas. I think the goal is really, you look at the $1 million potential short-term gain of the sale, which is nice. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But then what happens if the village puts in some additional housing and we have to add 100 or 200 students? And do we have the space on our current campus to do that, or where would we put those students? Where would we build? And do we want to have Algonquin available as that valve? So I can certainly pursue anything else with that with those potential plans if you'd like to. I just wanted to remind the board that you have the ability, as this board has the ability, to sell the land at any point in time. It used to be that all school district property, both purchasing and selling, had to go through annual meeting like community meetings. You had to have a voters meeting and go through that same process. You do not have to do that for selling property anymore. So disposing of property can be done by the board itself. So there's nothing else you have to do community-wise other than take action on your own. And then I did also want to mention that the village did connect me, with one of two potential developers they've discussed. They've had conversations with, and so I am setting up a meeting for next week to sit down and get some more information on what their plans are. I can't really talk about them right now. If I feel like it's something significant enough that we could do a closed session at that point, because it'd be private until they actually bring that publicly presented to the village board. But I can let you know what that potentially could be. It is something that could potentially have an impact on the school. with access to it. So I'll, again, I'll get more information and I can share that with you at some point. But really right now, all this is really preliminary from the village's standpoint. I think what the village board is really looking to, or the village administration is really looking to, is the district potentially interested in selling the property? Because if the decision is no, we don't want to do it at all, then they would just, stop these conversations, at least on that parcel of land, and move on. And then they're not putting any pressure on us or anything. It's really a school decision as to what we want to do. Again, I don't ask for any kind of decision tonight as to what you want to do. I certainly think I should meet with the developer, get a little more information, share that with you, and then I guess it's just kind of gauging your interest. And again, even saying potentially we would sell it doesn't mean you have to sell it. It'll have to be the right deal. But if the answer is no right now, well, then there's no point in having them work for the next 6 months to come up with a plan if you're sure that isn't your intention. So, but if you're open to it, we can do it. And then certainly I can also bring, Tyler Burkhardt. I'm sure we can invite him to a meeting at some point. I know you have a village joint meeting next week, so potentially this topic could come up and he can share what he can share, just to give you a sense of what's happening. But I just wanted to keep you updated as to where that's at. This is certainly the most movement we've had on that property in 8 or 9 years, probably. So and what I have heard from the village is that, and they had a really nice, they've been doing these town halls quarterly, that they invite the public to just learn more about certain processes the village goes through. And a couple weeks ago, they had one on assessments and TIF districts. And so Tyler talked a lot about this and potential future development. And so they've been getting a lot of interest now that the Green Bay construction over with, bridge is down. They get a lot more, where they used to maybe get a developer call once every couple months or things like that. They're doing at least one or multiple showings around the village of opportunities regularly now on a monthly basis with potential developers. So there's interest, and oddly enough, which I didn't realize, the way that we're viewed from developing standpoint is that they look at like a 3 mile and a 5 mile circumference of what population and economic status and things like that are within the ring of a potential development. We get dinged a little bit because of the lake, because obviously there's nothing in the lake, so that there's nothing over there to help add to our thing. But the other thing we also get dinged on is Northridge and that development, because it's an empty, thing. But now that there's potential things happening there, that may actually end up helping us in the long run, even though that's, Milwaukee. So, so it's interesting just to see what is happening and what it could mean down the road. So again, just sharing that information so that you have the information that you have so that we can make a decision at some point if it is something that the board wants to consider.
Okay. All right.
So I know it's up to you. I guess I'll continue to provide information, but I think ultimately it's up to the board to say if you want to, I don't know, I can be sure to talk to Tyler whether or not, again, you want him to stop in and say, and, talk about a little bit, whether you want to take formal action to say that you'll pursue action. We did, I think when I was on the board, the last time this all occurred is we did vote to put the property in a TIF district because they were trying to do it for that. That isn't a specific request this time around, but I don't know if formal action will be required or just a note to say to the village, go ahead and, talk to developers and let us know what happens after that.
All right, board members, I think from my perspective, I'd like to have like some discussion to find out kind of more along the lines of what they're talking about and potentially what did that mean to the district from a financial standpoint. But then also, I think we also need to look as a board, we also need to look big picture because we do have some things in relationship to potentially, do we need this? Because we may need to build something in the future. We've talked about potential having an early education site or whatever potentially. Was that enough space to be able to do an early education site and be able to do it, even though we'd like to have everything on one footprint, but we do own the land. So I think from this standpoint, I think we really need to do our decision-making due diligence when it comes to something like this or whatever have you and stuff, because, remember, Brown Deer's landlocked, so there isn't any more land. This is it. You know what I mean? And this parcel of land is pretty valuable in relationship to Brown Deer because there is no place else to build anything, right? Unless we tear something else down. So I think we really need to do our due diligence when we look at this whole thing, and we got to think big picture. We got to take that 1,000-foot view when we look at this thing or whatever have you, and not just do something just because it seems as though that, it's something in vogue to be able to do. And even though we know that we're getting ready to face some financial challenges, good word, I was gonna call it something else, but financial challenges or whatever have you, would that actually help us in the short term? But I want people to think about it in the long term. All right, because I always keep going back to the library. I wish we were having that discussion right now in relationship to that library, because I think that our disposition would be totally different than when that happened or whatever, because I don't think that we've ever would have let that.
I don't think it was even our disposition at the time. It was what was coming from the village.
Right. Well, like I said, and like I said, when we had that meeting, Kevin and I looked at each other like, when did all this happen? So again, but now that's the reason why we have these joint meetings with the village and the district or whatever have you and stuff, so we don't have moments like that any longer. So, but yeah, I just think that Kevin, but again, this is a board thing or whatever. So, whatever you want to be able to think about or whatever, but my recommendation would be is find out exactly what they're talking about, but we really need to do a deep dive into this thing. This is just not one of those one decision and that's it, because has multiple implications.
And I would say also to keep in mind that we are thinking, particularly early childhood, potentially at that site, that there is another early childhood center a couple blocks from there, so just to keep that in your back pocket.
Yeah, I just think that too, if we're taking away space from our students, if we're taking away a soccer field, where are we putting those students? And when you talk about land is something that, if it's ours, we can do what we need to do as we grow. Once we sell that, whatever they do, add another low income, add another apartment, but then it affects us, but then we'll be landlocked. So I definitely think this is something we need to, like Ty said, talk long-term about.
Yep, and then if you think about the enrollment numbers, and we have seen increase across the board for the last 3 years that I can recall. Those are all things that we're gonna have to consider as we move forward on this idea.
Yeah. So I take it the recommendation from the board is to have Kevin continue to have conversations, but continue to give the information back to the board, and we'll continue to look at this and discuss. Anything any different from anybody? Any board members?
So you're talking specifically with knowing what developers potentially have planned. But I think we probably need to start working on some plans of our own, whether it's for that space or here, so that we know what we may potentially be facing and can start to make some decisions that way.
If we do this, then this is the impact.
Yeah.
In all of those scenarios.
All of them.
Like even if we just say, okay, the village approves 3 new apartment complexes. What does that mean for us?
Yeah.
And is putting something right here on the soccer field enough? Do we need a whole new building for elementary? We should start to consider some of those.
1,000-foot view.
Yeah, some of those things, as opposed to just saying, well, we might need it one day. Well, let's talk about what might one day look like.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that section of those questions would be very important, understanding what board turnover could look like, so that, like I said, we all won't be here 5 years later. What was that conversation that prompted or served as an impetus for whatever the decisions were?
Right.
So whoever comes behind us can continue to move forward. I mean, we're landlocked, so there won't be a whole lot of moving forward.
Right.
But they will have that historical knowledge in terms of whatever their future will hold for the school district.
Yeah. And if you feel, again, there may be some costs involved with it, but, if it's a discussion you don't want to try to facilitate yourself, like if it is something like bringing in, PRA as an example and having them, listen to what you guys are thinking or give them some direction, actually come up with some more concrete, bigger picture ideas so you actually feel more comfortable inside of just us kind of trying to figure out what might or might not work, but actually have professionals, plan out some things that may be helpful. So if that's what the board wants to do, we could certainly look at, arranging a situation where, somebody else comes in to help facilitate that discussion, that, either architect or designer or something to help figure out what are some potential uses for those properties.
Well, Kevin, just have that conversation with Tyler and the developer or whatever, get back to us and stuff. And that would be the impetus for us to even start to even think about what we potentially may do. Because this is going to be, like I said before, this is major. So this is not one of these things that's going to be in 1 year, 2 year. This may be a 10-year thing or whatever have you. I just want to be smart about it and being able to put different pieces in place. Yes.
And I'm just sitting here, thinking, how long have we owned this?
Algonquin?
Yeah.
What, 50s?
I don't know what else got.
The 50s? Wasn't Algonquin built in like 1950 or something like that?
Right before it got zoned out.
Yep.
Water.
So 70.
There, so.
The only
Maybe
reason
even
I
before
asked
that.
that.
Right,
question-
because remember where we lived, I
Yeah.
remember,
Right.
they used to be brown deer, then Milwaukee annexed
There,
it.
then we got,
Yeah, then they annexed it, yeah.
Then they annexed it,
Yeah.
And the only reason I asked the question is because we've owned it all of this time. Is this something that we really to start thinking and talking about now, given our shortfall? Because then you may get a community outcry. If they're so short with funding, why won't they go on and sell it and get rid of it? So as opposed to bringing this out now, maybe we wait until we get past what we're trying to ask for from our community before we start publicizing that we have this property that we could ultimately sell and garner more dollars for the school district that is having the issues financially right now. And
I don't think we can afford to wait until after it's all said. But I think it has to be a part of the larger discussion
okay.
so that we'll know if this is something we need to consider as well.
And that's kind of what I said in the very beginning when I said my thing, because we know we're reaching some financial pieces or whatever have you. Some people may look and think short-sighted, depending upon what the dollar amount be like. Well, you guys use that to be able to do the budget or whatever have you and stuff. But again, that's.
It's only $1 million.
I don't even know what I'm saying. So that's not going to help. When you think about everything in totalitarian, it doesn't make any sense or whatever. Again, hence the reason why I keep saying this is 1,000-foot view right here and stuff. And this is one of those things to where we're going to have to plan this thing out and think about this thing or whatever have you, because it has overarching ramifications down the road, just in case.
Yeah.
So again, decision making through diligence, we're going to walk this one slow.
Yeah, I mean, the two things I would mention is that the $1 million is the same as ESSER funding. So it's like you had that for a year.
One time and
You know,
it's gone.
And
yeah.
that around
Right.
this
We
table.
can share- Right, that's why we have to share,
The
right.
community does not understand that. When you hear $1 million, that's like, wow, that's money when you're thinking from the naked ear. It doesn't.
But then the other question is, if the developer interest is now, that's where it's like, that's where you have people coming and whether you'll have that. Because that was the thing we thought, and that was before the library wasn't available. So I think, I think if I can remember how I felt back then, I think I was more apt to potentially get rid of Algonquin because we thought if the village sold the library, we could do something here. Now that we don't have that, it's a little bit different. But we also thought, oh, there's this TIF district, they're going to open up, it's going to sell, and it never did. So whether you're waiting 2 or 3 years, things change, I don't know. So that's, again, it's, the interest is now, that's why I bring it, at least you can make an informed decision, and maybe the answer is still no, but at least you thought about it and went
Absolutely.
through the exercise, so.
Okay. So Kev, you kind of got your,
I will meet and I will report back,
Okay.
all right, sounds good. All right.
and now I'm done.
Okay. All right, let's go on to item B, is our discussion for candidate for board vacancy. So as you know, that we had a person that was elected and they declined board membership. We voted as a board to maintain board member Peterson to get us through June. And so now what we have is according to our bylaws, section 167.1, filling a board vacancy. So what we're going to end up doing now is going out to notify the public that this vacancy is there. And we'll have to have the clerk be able to publish a notice on the vacancy on the district's website, stating the following: the length of for which the appointment is to be made, which will be the conclusion of a 3-year term. The place and manner in which the qualified electors who are interested in serving as appointee may declare their interest and apply. So what individuals are going to have to do is they're going to have submit to the board their name, their residential address to make sure that they are Brown Deer residents, telephone number, the reason why they want to serve on the board, their individual qualifications and experience relevant to the position. Any items that the individual believes should be the school board's top priorities in connection with improving student achievement. The candidate's general views on district strengths and areas that may need improvement. The individual's general view regarding the role of the board and the role of the district administrator and other leaders, and the candidate's availability for board duties. All right, so that is going to be the information that the potential candidates are going to have to submit to us. All right. So now with that being said, whenever we post it, there's 14 days, right, in which the window opens and the window closes. All right. So there's 14 days. So in looking at this thing and trying to make sure that we potentially can have a person on board by we can vote on it by the June 25th meeting or the July 9th meeting, putting it out there potentially maybe this Friday, May 17th, putting it out there to the public on all of the different sites for individuals that are interested and potentially applying for the board position. So we could have it there from May 17th through May 31st. And then we have to do interviews. The board has to do interviews with each one of the candidates. So I was looking at if we could start that interview process the week of June 3rd, if we stay with the May 17th through May 31st. If we looked at from June, we could look at from June 3rd to June 11th. Our next board meeting is that June 11th. And potentially if we had a person, we don't know how many people may apply. We could have a vote then at our June 11th meeting, but we'd have to have the interviews, and the interviews have to be an open session. All right. So if we say we have 3 candidates, we may say on June 10th, we want to have the interviews for these candidates, these prospective candidates, and being able to do that. And then we have to vote on that in open session to say what our vote may be in relationship to that person. So if we stick with the June 3rd through June 10th, we can either have the vote on June 11th and everything, or we can push that out 2 weeks to where we can have that vote on by the June 25th meeting, and that person's first board meeting would be July 9th. And this would actually kind of fall in line with board member Peterson saying that she could stay on board until the end of June.
So just one question, one clarity, from what you just said. If we select someone, do we want to select someone for the duration of the 3 years, or do we want to select someone until this next election cycle, and then whoever wins that election serves the remainder of the 3 years?
I don't believe you can appoint past the election. I think it is a 1-year appointment, and then it would be 2 years, maybe running to.
The other seat would be open, then they'd have to fit out the last 2 years of that one right there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now when we turn around and we look at that, so it would be, this person would continue from the July through April, right? And then we'd have 3,
2 years.
No, but we would have, because we've got 2 people who are up for election in the next April. So we'd have 3 seats that would be up for election.
And then whoever was the lowest vote getter would.
The remainder of those 2 years.
Right.
Yeah. Of the top 3. All right. So what we'd be doing is we'd have the cycle thing would be in April. We'd be electing 3 candidates. 2 candidates would have 3-year terms, and then the lower candidate would continue out the remainder of the 2-year.
So they would all have to file their candidacy paperwork in December then.
In December, all 3, or if there's incumbents If the incumbents want to, they got to put their stuff in by December. And if there's individuals from the community that want to do it, they also have to submit as well to be on the ballot.
And then on the ballot for the upcoming election, there are 3 individuals,
There will be 3. There will be 3 open seats.
but this person got it.
Yeah, so there'll be 2 people have 3-year terms and 1 person will have a 2-year term to finish out the remainder of that term.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my fault. I misspoke.
Yes, that's
Right.
That's fine.
Okay, so that is kind of where we are. So now I think as a board, what we want to be able to do is, and I know if we look at putting this out there May 17th, so that would be down on making sure that we get everything out on the website, and then we'd have to do like our normal channels and putting it out there to the community that we are accepting applications for potential board members too. And we want to be able to say that, this is to be able to do from July to April or whatever, then they'd have to reapply. So we want to make that clear.
Okay, so we need to
We
explain.
haven't established application, this application exists. It did at one point. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and if not, then what we'll turn around and do is the application, what we'll do is the things are already right here for us. It's the 7 points in the bylaws that we have in here for candidates under 167.1. So all of the things that we need to do are right here. So the 7,
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify. I think you're looking at an old policy.
I'm looking at our policy that's in our manual thing right now. That's what I want.
The policy for vacancies is 142.5.
Hold on, wait a minute.
Board doc.
I'm in board docs. Hold on, let me see. Because I thought that was 142.5. I think we used that one for Anita. And then, so now this other one, this 167.1 is to be able to fill that other vacancy because we already had somebody that was there. And so we're getting ready to get it filled. So 167 is the board will fill a vacancy by the member remaining board consistent with bylaw 162, form bylaw voting, so.
Because I'm looking at board docs. I searched for 167.1 and it's not.
It's, here you go, right here. And I'm in board docs, I'm in our policies.
That's 142.5.
Right. See, but here, this is what we're using to do it.
Yeah.
Which is 167.1, which is all.
Oh, with the bylaw, with
Yep.
the bylaw, not the policy, then the bylaw piece.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
That's
The
what I was
bylaw,
on.
not policy. Gotcha.
Right, that's why I said bylaws, remember?
Policies.
Yeah. All right. So with that being said, do we want to try to be ambitious with this thing and put this thing out here on Friday and go from May 17th through the 31st? Or do we want to be able to push that back out another week and push it out to June 3rd, have it go from June 3rd to June the 17th? And then we have then we have to have our interviews for the candidates or whatever have you. And
From May 17th to June 3rd.
June 3rd to June.
right, see, but again, I had May 17th through the 31st. It's got to be out there for 14 days. Right. So, but if we don't, we can turn around and say, you know what, we could do this thing in 2 weeks and go like May 24th. Or do you want to put it out there on the 31st? I'm just trying to figure out, because I know that we've got vacation stuff and everything else going on or whatever. I'm trying to just come up with dates. We've got to it's got to be out there for 14 days. Then we've got to turn around and we've got to do the interviews and open sessions. So we don't know how many candidates we're talking about. And then we've got to turn around and we've got to vote on it at our board meeting.
I get that. But I'm saying you went from May 17th to June 3rd. That's
Right,
like,
well, May
you
17th
jumped so
check out.
far.
May 17th to May 31st was the initial date that I'm talking about. And then what we'd have to do is from June 3rd to June 11th, do the interviews. Right? That's what I was talking about before. Now, people aren't comfortable with doing May 17th. We can push it out and go maybe May 24th. And then we post it out May 24th and it goes from May 24th to June 2nd.
7.
It's got to be 14 days. So what would they, if we did May 24th, that would go to June what?
June 7th.
To June 7th. So May 24th to June 7th. And then we'd have to turn around probably the week of June 10th through the, I don't know, like 17th or something like that, or 18th. we could do interviews, and then we could vote on it on our June 25th board meeting, because we have to vote on it in open session at our board meeting. So we could do that on June 25th, and then that new candidate's first board meeting could be July 9th. So would you rather us turn around and put it out there May 24th? And it runs from May 24th to June 7th?
I would rather that because the more we get into June, the more my time becomes.
Again, that's the reason why I was like,
But,
I was trying to do it earlier, but again, let's keep
It
it.
doesn't have to push this to May 24th. It could be May 20th. Just if a few more days we need it for something.
Well, I was trying to go like a Friday to Friday.
would you be able to get something out on Friday?
This Friday?
Yes.
I'm sure we could.
Yeah. But this is a board decision. Again, I was trying to be cognizant of, I know how June works for everybody. June is a little bit.
You already messed up because May 31st is my birthday. But I'm just.
Hey, but again, but that's when the window closed. That's when they closed it, and we wouldn't do anything. So we know to make sure that we have a gift for her. They come up May 31st.
That's all I mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, board, what if you?
The 17th through 31st, as long as we know that we can get it out.
Yeah. And we got, because there's people that are already asking. There's been a couple people that have already asked or whatever. But again, I want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with this timeline, because once we put it out there, then it's out. And then, we like I said before, by law, it's got to be out there for 14 days. And then we've got to turn around and we've got to, if we only have one person that applies or whatever have you. Now, again, here's the other piece of this. We've got to agree that we want this person, that this person meets the qualifications and we're comfortable with that. And if not, then we can always turn around and put it back out again. All right. But again, I think that we'll probably end up with individuals that care enough about the board and what those duties are and what's happening or whatever, to where we should actually have some good candidates.
I hope so.
So again, so now for the board, we just got to come up with the dates. What dates are you more comfortable with? Are you comfortable with the 17th through the 31st, or do you want to go May 24th to June 7th? For the dates for the open period to be.
17th through the 31st is good for me, but I do have a question. Am I involved in this process, or should I not?
You're a board member, and you're a board member, and two, we can look like somebody.
Yeah.
But I think the 17th through the 31st, to Alita's point, getting into June, I have a crazy calendar and vacation line. But that really matters.
So we need to get
We at least got to make sure we've got
a spreadsheet out. So we can start putting in those dates, right?
Yeah. Well, again, and then we've got to turn around and we've got to set another special open board meeting to be able to do the interviews.
Well, I'm signing the spreadsheet so that we can.
And this is for the open session date?
Yeah.
For the interviews.
Which
And then hopefully we can just do all the interviews in one day.
Got June 10th?
June 10th is a Monday.
I got 2 days.
So June 10th is a Monday, right? And then June 11th was our regular board meeting. So that was the reason why I was saying, like, we did May 17th to the 31st. And if we could do June 3rd, between June 3rd and June 10th, and do that, then the June 11th board meeting, we could actually vote. Or do you want to push it out to where we do this, to where we don't worry about it until the June 25th board meeting?
I say vote on the June 25th, unless.
That's fine with me. It doesn't make a difference.
We have the agreement already.
Well, you can vote the day you interview. I mean, unless you feel like you need like it's not, there's the closed session piece there where you can confer as a group. You have to all make your own decision. I mean, otherwise, if people are there that weren't at the interview, if you don't have full attendance, then that'll confuse things. So you may want to just vote, the same night you interview.
Yeah.
Well, again, but we don't know how many candidates or whatever have you and stuff. So again, that's why I was trying to leave us a little bit of wiggle room, because what if we turn around and say the interview thing is this date, and two candidates say that, hey, I can't do this date. Can I do the about,
I don't think we should pick one specific date at this point. We should just get.
We need a range.
Availability so that we can have save the date on our calendar, and then when we contact the people, we will.
We'll know a little bit more, so.
Could that be part of what she's putting out there? If you're selected for an interview, what day would you be available between June 3rd and June 11th? And something like that be included in the?
Yeah, we could do it that way, or do you want to push it out to the following week? Because again, our next board with, because, you know, if we're not comfortable enough to be able to say on that June 11th and both that June 11th, we can always push all the way out to the 25th. Right? And then, and Anita said she would stay on board, and she was going to stay on board until the June 25th meeting. So their first official board meeting would be the July 9th meeting. So that way, like I said before, we're not in this crazy rush. I just wanted to be able to try to get ahead of this thing and get the information out there to the public as sooner rather than later, because people have been asking.
Is there a July 9th meeting? 'Cause we only have
We
a
only
meeting in
have one
July.
more
and
meeting.
So we don't have that special meeting July 9th?
I July, we
We have one meeting in July.
And what's the date for the meeting in July?
It'll be the fourth Tuesday. That'll be the.
The fourth Tuesday, well, the fourth, we always do the last Tuesday in July, the 23rd.
I'm sorry, the fourth Tuesday in July, sorry.
Fourth
So-
Tuesday in July, the 23rd,
So July 20th. Oh,
so no meeting.
so no meeting on July 9th?
No.
So that's.
So do you guys just want to push it back then? Since now we don't have a meeting till what, July
23rd.
23rd?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that you have to set all of this now. I mean.
Right, I just want to be able to ask the board, you know, when we get ready to put it out there, it's got to be out there for 14 days. So my thing is the date that we put out now, we can, once we get all of the applications in and stuff, we can start to work on all the rest of it. I just want to be able to, is the board comfortable with putting it out there this Friday and going to the 31st, or do you want to push it out from May 24th to June 7th? All right, so what we'll do then is, so let's put it out there then. Wait a minute, does everybody agree on that? We do May 24th, it's open from May 24th to June 7th. And then and then we can turn around and start doing interviews after that.
So I mean, we have a requirement that it's open for 14 days, but can it be open for longer than?
It can be
14?
open, this a minimum of 14 days.
So I would say just do it this Friday and then just leave it open for 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks.
Okay, so we're doing May 17th to the 31st.
June 7th.
To June 7th. So we go from May 17th to June 7th is the open period where people can apply.
June 7th.
Yes. Okay. All right, and then what we'll do is we'll come up with the dates for the interviews will be upcoming.
Okay.
Then we'll contact those that meet the criteria that we want to turn around and interview. Okay?
But if you're doing that, then you're gonna have to have a meeting to decide what the criteria are. So I mean, it's, otherwise, if you just invite all the applicants, then there's no.
Well, they've got to meet the 7 standard, they've got to answer the 7 questions that are there and meet the
board
residents
has to
report.
decide, you have to look at them and do that, so that's a meeting. I'm just saying like that's a.
Well, we can put that in when we have our June, when we do our
That
June,
on June 11th.
our June 11th meeting, then we,
Not a closed session. You gotta just do it in open session.
well, no, at our June 11th, because if it's going to be open to June 7th, our June 11th meeting,
Candidates and-
and we can turn around and we can say that at our June 11th meeting.
But we gotta have some qualifications that we putting out there to get people to apply to.
I thought so.
I gave it to them. Those are the 7 things. I read what they had to do.
So then what are we reassessing?
If we're already given the qualifications, why do we have to discuss if they've met the qualifications?
What we're doing is we're going to be reviewing applications.
Right.
We got to review the applications and make sure that that they meet the criteria.
I get if we gonna review the application, but that ain't what was stated. So
What was just
that's why I
stated?
asked the question.
What was the question?
What was stated was that we need to review and see if they meet the qualifications. And then somebody mentioned, well, what are the qualifications? What the qualifications? Well, I would hope if they apply, they meet the qualifications.
Well, again, you got people that apply for stuff that don't meet standard all the time.
Well, part of your selection process is determining whether that, you know,
Right,
you
they
vote
check
for them
all
or you
That person meets.
based on that information, so.
Review it, we'll see.
Yep.
So we'll schedule the review for, as a part of the June 11th meeting.
Okay.
That's fine.
Review.
And that's what we
The
just.
interviews going to.
The interviews will happen after, but the interviews will happen after that, then we'll figure out when we want to have the date for the interviews and everything, and as long as I think we should have it done before the June 25th meeting. Because we don't have another board meeting until July 23rd, so after that, we be trying to look at right around that June 25th meeting or whatever, so.
So
Was-
potentially the interviews are gonna happen anywhere from that week.
Well, from June 10th through June 25th. We could do to June 24th or whatever, to the 25th,
Well,
June 12th
June 12th, I'm sorry.
through the 24th.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
and this is for what again? Interviews?
For the board vacancy.
Interview.
Yes.
What are the posting days, 31st?
And posting date is gonna be May 17th through July 7th.
June.
June 7th, I'm sorry. June 7th, I'm so sorry. Too many dates running around in the head. All right, so again, May 17th through June 7th. All right, yeah.
6/11.
And then the plan is to vote on June 25th.
Yeah, that would be the same plan would be is to do it on, well, I mean, at the June 25th meeting, we want to make sure that we've announced who
Right, that's
Right.
not vote, it's not the word.
is when we want to do the announcement.
Announce who-
We'll announce that June 25th,
Okay.
right? That'd be the announcement at the June 25th meeting would be the announcement of who the candidate would be, who we selected or whatever. And their first board meeting would be the July 23rd.
Yes.
Peter, when you
May 17th, the
Announcement is on June.
that's June 25th board meeting.
Okay.
We'll make the announcement.
Okay.
And interviews can run anywhere between June
12th and the 24th.
24th.
That's what we need a spreadsheet to say the availability between the 11th and the 20th.
We
We
may
left in the 24th
want to talk about
Okay, availability.
resign before they vote, placement. You have to check that.
Okay.
I'll check into that part right there or whatever.
It might be a timing thing just to make sure you can't vote for the seventh board member when there's seven board. Potentially.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So hence if we can do it at the 25th, because again, she said she would kind of stay on board until the June 25th. So actually, so
Resign
yeah,
first
it'd be
part of
perfect
the
meeting,
meeting.
yeah, both resign and then we can do the.
Second part
Yeah,
of the meeting.
there we go. And then we all straight. We're all good to go.
I think.
All right. Any other questions? All right. All right. So let's go on to item number 5. Motion going to roll call vote.
Dr. Beto, I'd like to make a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.851C. The Board of Education may move into closed session for the purpose of discussion of personnel matters, discussion of district administrator evaluation, motion and roll call vote to return to open session to announce or take action if any and if appropriate.
All right. Thank you very much. A motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
What is that?
Macon? All right. All right. Let's go into roll call vote.
Beto,
Aye.
Daniels, Ashley, eyes.
Barrington. Barrington, aye.
Aiken,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Robinson. Walker, absent. And the vote is 6-0 to go into closed session at 7:23 PM.
All right. We are now going into closed session.